everyone. This is another Freedom to Feel conversation. And my guest today is somebody who is very familiar to the Fit for Joy platform. We have met 6 times for video interviews and have collaborated in many different ways for a reason. So, Dr. Christine Silverstein is a peak performance coach, founder of the Summit Center of Ideal Performance. She is a behavioral health registered nurse and clinical hypnosis expert. Dr. Christine is also a researcher, published historian, and a bestseller author of Wrestling Through Adversity, Empowering Children, Teens, and Young Adults to Win in Life. So this is my brief bio, as always. I always give this brief bio. The full bio will be at the end. But Christine, recently there was a different. I want to thank you for your presence again. I never say that. I say off record, and then maybe some people think that I'm not kind of grateful. I'm always grateful for every presence of every women and men that have been on my platform because of the timeless wisdom that they carry with them. There's something about it that changed my life. So there's something in me that wants to share that, and that's why I do this. But the question changed recently. I usually ask, who are you in your own words? But then recently, about 3 days ago, it changed. So now I'll ask you a similar question, but in a different way. How do you introduce yourself without labels?
Well, as we discussed many times, I am a unique individual. And I would say that I'm a person, first of all. We tend to think of people as you're the wife, or you're the patient, or you're, worse off, your diagnosis, you're autistic, or you're schizophrenic, or you're a diabetic. So those are labels, or those are medical labels. And we have to know that we're people, we're persons. And so I'm a person with the unique perspective. I think I was born, as we discussed, with a mission. And also I was gifted, I believe, because I see my world in a different way. I see it through metaphors, through pictures, imagery, and I've always been that way. And I think that my work is to help people to understand the world through these metaphors, through these images, because those are 2 of the 5 ways of reaching the subconscious mind. And I work with the subconscious mind by using hypnosis and teaching people self-hypnosis. And that's my world. And it didn't really click until I was much older. And I remember when I was about 17 years old, I was in nursing school, and we had this garden in between the nurse's residence and the hospital where we worked. And so it was this little passageway from one building to the next. So I went outside. It was spring, and I was so happy it was spring, because I've always been connected to nature, always asking about what flower is this and what tree is that. And so when I was walking on the path, I said hello to the birds and the trees. I said, hello, birds, hello, trees, like that, very innocently. And my classmates were saying to me, who are you talking to? And I said, the birds and the trees, like who else? Don't you talk to the birds and the trees? I was so surprised. And so they thought it was crazy. But then I noticed that a couple of years later, when I graduated, in the yearbook, it was mentioned, they had this nurse, this student will be the best nurse, and she'll be, successful in her career. Well, what did they have for me? That I talked to the birds and the trees. They listed that down. And I'm thinking now, well, that was a great thing, because I was connected to nature. So that's who I am, unique in all ways, and always trying to explain to people, maybe looking at things from a different perspective. And I remember doing that even as a young child. Adults used to come to me and say, well, what about this situation? And I'd say, oh, well, we could look at it this way or that way. But I often wondered, why are you coming to me? I'm just a child. But I had unique knowledge, and I think I'm the same way. I'm a person with these gifts, and I share them with everyone.
Mm. And I love that. And what's not to love about it? I always say it that way. It's
Hmm.
what's needed,
Hmm.
actually, more. This sense of purpose, of mission, um, timeless wisdom. That's what I really I love about these explorations, these meetings that I have. So before we get to the topic, so it's breaking free from fear to win in life, and that's based on chapter 7 of Christine's book, Peak Performance: Stress, Friend or Foe. But before that, what is your suggestion or advice, per se, to those who are looking, investigating this idea of mission, of purpose, of calling?
Well, I think that you get clues during your lifetime that there's something that you have to do. I do believe that my entrance into nursing school when I was 16, that I had a calling there. It started with this experience I had when I was 15, actually. And I had a friend, and I didn't know this, but he had epilepsy, and he had an epileptic seizure in the middle of a street, a grand mal. It was a very forceful seizure, and I didn't know how to help him. I saw him shaking, and oh my goodness, and my some of my friends were with us, and we said maybe we should put a stick in his mouth so he doesn't swallow his tongue. We had seen that on TV, and so I watched him through that, and then when he woke up from it, kind of in a daze, he was upset with himself. It wasn't something that he wanted to share because epilepsy has a huge stigma attached to it. So he got up from the street, actually, and I never saw him again after that. He was embarrassed, I think. And so then right after that, my mom, who wanted to be a nurse when she was young, and she had been in the hospital with a ruptured appendix when she was 15, and she almost died from it because there were no antibiotics. So she thought she wanted to be a nurse, but she never had the opportunity. She had 5 children at a young age, and she never got there. But she was very proud that I could be a nurse. And now she asked my 3 older sisters if they wanted to be a nurse, and they all said, "No way!" They became teachers. So at that point, I said, "Well, my friend, he had this seizure. Maybe I could find out what to do to help him or other people, who are sick and they need assistance." So I think that fed into my mission, that I wanted to be helpful to people and understand people. And my primary job was to listen to what they were saying and help them through illness to be well. And so you have to look for clues in your life, how you direct it and guide it, and not just dismiss it as being, oh, I'll just ignore that. I'll just ignore what I'm seeing. And many people will say that that they're afraid, or they don't want to say yes, to maybe the future of what they should do. And so to listen to yourself and your own self and be your own person, and also to use your intelligence, to ask questions, which I always got in trouble for. In religion class in Catholic school, I got called a heretic because I asked a question, a philosophical question of the teacher, and she told me, and I was 13, right? And she told me that if the Pope found out, I would be excommunicated from the Catholic Church, right? And I was so scared. I didn't tell my mother that I got in trouble in religion class because she worked so hard to send me there. And she worked as a waitress to send me to the Catholic school. She got pennies sometimes for her tips. And so I never told her. I thought, she said, if the Pope finds out, you'll get excommunicated. So I didn't want this to get off to Rome, word that I asked, I said something that was heretical. And so that's the way it is. You ask questions, and you probe into things, and never just settle for what people are telling you or saying to you. And I think that that's key. And I had many times when I woke up in the middle of the night, I felt the ocean calling me. There was a mission and I knew it. And one time I woke up like that, and my husband was sleeping next to me, and I jumped up and I said, and he said, "What's the matter? What's the matter?" I said, "The ocean's calling me." And he was tired, so he said, "Well, can't you tell me tomorrow what the ocean's saying? Why do you have to wake me up? You know." But that's the way my life is. That I get cues from the universe, and I just go with it if I think it's right for me. And so that feeds into my mission, to help people to heal, and through words and actions, and also to access the subconscious mind where all healing takes place. So that's very crucial too, that I had to learn how to do that, and I did.
Yes, I love that because it has to do with self knowledge. So it always
Yes,
goes back to because
self-knowledge.
they empower us to know
Mhm.
ourselves and then to have the courage to be ourselves.
Yes.
You know, somebody said recently, Christine, about I don't know, it was Bob Rich from Australia. He said, um, only two things in life matters: what you take with you when
Mhm.
you die, and what you leave in the hearts of those who have crossed your path. Something like
Mhm.
that,
Mhm.
paraphrasing him. So that really kind of, I mean, makes so much sense to me, not to the intellect, but also to the heart. It just
Yes.
feels true, doesn't it?
Well, we have our legacies, and I really can appreciate it that my older sister passed away in November, and I remember the last days of her life, and it was very hard for her. As I told you, she had Lewy body dementia, and it was very challenging at the end. So I have to say to myself, so what value did I have get from my older sister, and really delve into that. And some of the funny stories came up, and all the things she taught me, and the value in her life that she held for me, being the fourth daughter, and she was the oldest daughter. And also some funny experiences that you can laugh about, like at the wake. I said something about how my sister brought me to get my graduation dress from the eighth grade, and we had to get on a bus to go to the department store where my mother had the only credit card, so we had to go there. And she was supposed to find something for me, but we couldn't find anything. I was only 12, so I wasn't fully developed, and we went in the children's department, and the dresses were little for little girls, and here I was in the eighth grade. So so we went into the dressing room, and she said, "Well, this dress isn't right for you. You need a more mature dress." And she was very fashion oriented, and she noticed when I was getting undressed that I had an undershirt on. So I didn't have breast development, right? So I was telling this to the people at the wake, and they were laughing because they understood my sister. So at any rate, we um, she was my mother always had to sew our clothing to really to get them to fit us because we were very lean. So she said, "My mom can take it in here, and she can take this up and this." So she said, "Let's buy this dress," and it was yellow, and I remember a beautiful shade of yellow, and and it was stylish. So we brought this dress home, and she said to my mother, "Christine needs to get a bra. She needs to get one because she can't go to her eighth grade graduation without one," right? So the whole story was I got this, what they call the training bra, right? I got this training bra that it didn't even fill out, but my sister gave it to me and said, "Okay, you wear this and you put some cotton in it, and then you have some breast." But I had no idea what I was supposed to do with it. What do you train? I'm thinking, so what should I train? How should I train? My breast, and everybody was laughing because it's the silly things that happen in life, and there was value in it. So we could laugh, and we could remember my sister and how she helped me, and then my other sisters and my brother talked about her value. So that's your legacy. It doesn't have to be that you were Albert Einstein, and it doesn't have to be that you you worked in ShopRite, for your whole life. It doesn't have to be anything, you know, um, so magnificent as the relativity, Einstein, like that. That we all have value in where we are, and it's the things that you do for other people, and it's how you live your life that matters. So I agree with that person from Australia. It's your legacy.
So let's talk about, God, let's dive into the breaking free from fear to winning life. I have to say, this is actually, for me, it really stayed with me from what I read. So you wrote, our fears today relate to those of the past, and we can overcome them to accomplish our goals and find joy. So that's paraphrasing you too. I think I made some
Mm-hmm.
changes here.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to me about the relationship between fear in the past that happened back then
Mm-hmm.
and the ones that are being presented now. How are they connected?
Well, first of all, we have the fears most probably from childhood. We accumulate many fears from childhood. And for me, I had eye surgery when I was 12. I used to go to the dentist by myself when I was a young child and get teeth pulled and things like that. So these are traumas that stay with you. And if you don't work on them, they'll continue to stay with you. And you might even really pass them on to your children. You don't even know it. You don't realize that they're holding you back, and you cannot go past that. So, for instance, I had this eye surgery. It was really challenging when I was 12, and I had eye patches on both eyes when I woke up for the anesthesia, and I was vomiting, and I had no call bell. And so it wasn't the best experience. I got through it, and then the operation was successful physically, but I still held the trauma. I held the trauma for years. And how do I know that? Because it would pop up at certain times in my life. So I explain in my book, but I also had a more recent experience. So when I go to the eye doctor, and I've known this eye doctor for many years, and he's helped me with my vision many times, and also my children. So at any rate, I get there, and this just happened this year on December 31st, where I went to the eye doctor, but I was running late. There's traffic that I couldn't help, and I get there a little late, and I feel tense. I didn't meditate like I usually do. I usually calm myself down and mentally rehearse before I get there. So I look at the machines and do the testing, and I feel calm. So I didn't feel calm. And so he examines my eyes, and he's telling me, "Oh my goodness, your vision got worse, right? Oh, look at this, and oh, you need cataract surgery, and you need I won't be able to give you your driver's license. That's how bad it is." So, do you think that engenders, relaxation and good vision? Because I believe that the optic nerve is important, but a large percentage of vision is how we perceive it. It's perception, right? So, at any rate, I was really anxious, and I left there feeling anxious from what he had said. And he didn't mean to make me upset. He was just concerned, how come your vision got so bad? I tried to explain, but he didn't listen. So, fast forward that to 6 weeks later, and then I convinced him to give me contact lenses that were right for my eyes. So I said, my vision is better than what you're saying, what the charts are saying, and what my prescriptions, my vision, I'm seeing better than I've seen in many years. But it's perception, right? And I even told him that. So anyway, I come back 6 weeks later, and now I have the trial prescription for the lenses in my eyes. And I meditated, and I prepared for this, and I had confidence on the way there driving. And he gives me the exam, and the first eye, the right eye, he looks at the computer in front of me. He said, "I am totally shocked. I'm so shocked." that you're seeing. And I'm saying, what? What do you mean? He said, I can't believe that this prescription made your vision improve. Now let's do the left eye. And now we're working on the left eye. And he said, this one's even better. I can't believe this. Right. And I said, oh, Dr. Yi of little faith. Right. And, and so my wish came true that somehow I would have this better vision, and he would he would say that it improved, because that was my objective. But the trauma from childhood, you see, at other times when I went to the eye doctor, totally destroyed me, some years ago, where if my vision wasn't what it should be, then I'd get upset. And it was all from the trauma from when I was 12 that I had to work through. So that's how it can really set you back in life, and you don't even know it. You don't realize that, oh, this is from the trauma from when I was 12. You don't go back to look, except I do, because that's the way I think. But not everybody does. And I can't even tell you how many clients come to my office and they're held back by things, even something simple as tonsillectomy. A wrestler on the wrestling mat, in only the semis and the finals, he has this trouble with breathing. He can't breathe, and he's turning blue on the wrestling mat. And the refs and the coach they don't know what to do. So I worked with him, and we went back in time to, I call it looking back to the future, to when he was 8 years old, and he had a tonsillectomy and his adenoids removed, and he couldn't breathe. And so we released it, and he was able to get through and win some tournaments after that, because it only showed up when he had this tension and he didn't believe in himself. And he was in the semis and the finals. It didn't happen in other matches, which is really interesting. So at any rate, that's an example. And also my eye experience is an example. But I believe that I have great vision and that I can improve, that I do eye exercises and I help myself, which other people don't think they can improve their vision. I don't just settle for the lenses and the prescriptions. I say I can do better. And in this instance, I did. My doctor actually used that word, shocked. So that the proof is in the pudding, as the wrestling coaches say.
Yeah. Wow, Christine, those are great examples. And I love how you give your own experience too, because that brings it more to life in a
Mm-hmm.
sense. I'm talking to exactly to the person. I'm listening to you, and I know you've been through that. That's your own experience being expressed here.
Mm-hmm.
And so in a way, would you say that healing begins with the belief system? We need to believe something that's not there yet in order, and then work.
Definitely. I do believe that. As it's in the Bible, many stories, you have faith. You have faith. And that's very important, because, and we know that in research, because that's called the placebo effect. You could be taking sugar pills, and that's incorporated into every controlled study, right? And that some people think, well, this is helping me, and it's just a sugar pill, right? So faith is very important. And to imagine yourself well, to imagine, it's like I did, I had the vision of better eyesight. And I said, it's better eyesight. I saw myself reading the charts, going through the exams that I knew were scheduled. And to dismiss these things that, well, maybe you could have this um, disorder in your eye, and that's mentioned, and then you have to have the test for it, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, I'm never going to be able to drive again. So you have to cancel out the negative and substitute positive, and also that picture counts, especially when you're talking about vision. The picture of success, that all goes into healing. And if you ask anybody who believed and had faith in the healing process, they would say that to you. I was positive, and I had the picture. I'm already healthy, and that's our job as if you ask me, as a nurse. and it's a peak performance coach to help the person to already see that picture of health and to move in that direction, because you move in the direction of your dominant thoughts and your dominant pictures. So if they're negative, you'll move into that negative direction simply because the subconscious mind doesn't make a judgment whether it's right or wrong. So that's how it works.
Yes, gosh, yeah, exactly. That's, I mean, it's just, it's very clear to me that that's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
You even see that in nature. So when I think about nature, it's always trying to balance itself out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Brings itself to regenerating itself, or bringing itself into harmony. So in a way, Christine, we are doing the same. So we are
Yes.
being very natural per
Mm-hmm.
se. So hypnosis is a very natural thing to do. And I wonder why it became so unnatural for most of us. Some people not to believe these things are real. They think that they are woo-woo, they are
Mm-hmm.
some part of a spiritual, I don't know,
Exactly.
kind of doctrines.
Well, it has. I have a part of that in my book, the Mesmer's work and how it got to be the way it is, right? And it has to do with people thinking that it's evil, and it has to do also with the movies and entertainment that perpetuates that idea. But really, it's very natural. It's what we all do every day. If you wanted to graduate from college, you have to see yourself with that graduation cap on and your diploma. And that's probably from day one, because the challenges in college can be great, right? In many ways. But just think about it. Probably everything you accomplished in your life at some point you had to see first, and then you had to experience it in your mind's eye. And so that's exactly what the work that I do. That's very natural. Matter of fact, if you, they call it highway hypnosis, when you're driving from point A to point B, and you get to your work in the morning and think, well, I don't remember turning there and getting off the highway there, because you're just in the zone. I call that in the zone. It's a very natural place to be, and sometimes you have to pull yourself back from that so you can focus and score and get 100% on your exam, right? So it helps you to do that as well, just to call yourself back and get in the zone. And and we experience that with the kids with playing the games, the video games, and you have to call them back. But they're in the zone there playing those games. It's very natural. And this has nothing to do with spiritualism or voodoo or any of these other things. And I explain that in my book, in a chapter, in one of the chapters as well, how it came about and what Mesmer wanted. He wanted it to be healing, a healing modality, because he was a doctor. And um, so as it turned out, they realized that even though he was disgraced, they said, well, some of that stuff does work, because why? It's the use of the imagination that is natural to us.
So doing the visualizations and imagining, using imagination to kind of heal and also achieve what we want in life, it's really incredibly powerful, because I see that how you do this. We're talking off record, so it can also heal the past, so we can let go of whatever the body is still holding and the traumas that's in the body,
Mm-hmm.
and we can also use to achieve what in the future, something that we want. So maybe this is a good time to go back to the conversation that we had before, actually,
Mm-hmm.
about miscarriages,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of very sad when I was reading about it, because the suffering and the pain behind it and the injustice and all that. But then I think it's beautiful the way you healed from it and the way you talk about the butterflies. I mean, that's just, to me, that's the perfect picture of transformation.
Yes. Well, we were talking about fear, and the fear built up in me because I had 4 miscarriages. The first one, actually, I wasn't really sure if I was pregnant. I thought maybe I could have been, but I went skiing. It was Washington's weekend, and I went skiing in Vermont, and I was a pretty capable skier, but it had been warm the day before, so the next day everything froze. It was very slippery on the slope, So I fell really hard on the slope and I couldn't stand up. It was so slippery. So after that, I went back to work the next week after the holiday, and I worked for the visiting nurse service in New York City. And I had part of my area was to visit a assisted care facility. So I went there this one day and I was really feeling crampy on the way. So I stopped off in the bathroom in the lobby of the facility, and there I had a miscarriage into the toilet, and there was a lot of bleeding and cramping. And I still went to see my patients there. I had a host of patients to see that day. And after that, I went home on the train and I didn't tell anybody about it. I kept it to myself because I felt, well, Christine, why didn't you know that you might have been pregnant? Why did you go skiing? And I felt guilty about it. So it didn't come out till years later that I had that miscarriage. I didn't even tell my husband. And so that was the first one. And now you have these fears and, oh my goodness, look what happened. It's negative, right? To say the least. And I get and still working in the visiting nurse service, and I have a second miscarriage some months later. And that one was a similar thing. I was bleeding and I went home on the train, the subway, and I went to bed. And that one was, it was both a planned pregnancy, but it was also that I confirmed at the doctor's office, because back then you had to go to the doctor to confirm pregnancy. They didn't have tests that you could take. So I called the doctor, and the doctor said, go home to bed rest, which I did. But in the middle of the night, I woke up and I could feel the fetus separate from my uterus inside me. I could feel it like a thump. And I ran to the bathroom, and there again, I hemorrhaged into the toilet, and I had a miscarriage. Went to the hospital, had what's called a dilatation and curettage, D&C, to get the products of conception scraped out so that it wouldn't make me ill. And I was still at work, and I had to take care of newborn babies, and that was really hard for me. And I remember after that, going into the bathroom, because I was in this hospital on the maternity ward, and in the morning, this lady said, oh, I had a little baby girl, and she's so beautiful. What did you have? And I just looked at it. I said, my baby died. She didn't know what to say to me. But at any rate, it was very challenging. So it kept on going on. So I had 3 of these miscarriages before this 4th pregnancy, and I was petrified. And each of these pregnancies was worse than the one before. It's like this one, the 3rd one, the doctor told me, after I was bleeding, I went to the emergency room. He told me I wasn't pregnant at all. He said, you're just having a bad period. Women drop tissue out of them all the time. Well, I went home from that visit in the ER, and the next day I aborted into the toilet, a fetus, right? And so that was challenging to get over. The doctor didn't believe me. And here I was, a nurse, and this was the fourth miscarriage was after I had all these others. They don't believe you. So at any rate, when I got to my 4th pregnancy with my son, I was petrified at night. So the fear and the trauma builds up, and I hadn't released it. So I was afraid I was going to have a miscarriage in the bed again, because I had this huge blood stain on my mattress that I couldn't clean off. I just covered it up. And so that's when I decided, because I couldn't sleep, to learn meditation and learn self-hypnosis. And I studied it, and I used it every day to help me get through the night and to help me get through the pregnancy. And that was my first successful pregnancy. And that's all I did, aside from taking more supplements and changing my diet. But up to that point, I was diagnosed as infertile. I was diagnosed with unexplained infertility and as habitual aborter. So I helped myself to become pregnant with my son. He was a healthy baby, 9 pounds, 3 ounces. And what I had to go through to get to that point one doctor told me I had to take DES, which is diethylstilbestrol, which causes cancer in mothers and offspring. And he said, this is the only way you're going to have a baby. And I refused to take it. I threw the prescription in the garbage. I said, I'm going to help myself. And as a result of that, I have created a program called Metamorphosis Fertility Enhancement Coaching, and that's part of it. And I released the trauma from that years later. Years later, it took me so long when I realized I had to do it. And that's when I'm talking about the butterflies and another D&C that I had for spotting. And I healed myself. But these things are traumas that hold you back. And it may prevent you from ever having another pregnancy. It may prevent you your whole life. It's something that holds you back. So I say that you use the power of your mind, which I was determined to do. I discovered that I'm going to have this expectant mind and I'm going to have fertility consciousness. And that's what I did. And so to tell all the women out there, there's hope for you to use the power of your mind beyond the physical challenges that you're having, and that you can become fertile in consciousness and also to produce babies. Now, I had 4 children after that. So I'm no longer unexplained in the infertility department, right? I had 4 children after those 4 miscarriages.
Yes. Again, it shows the power of your own experience. And when you came across this, the idea of to meditate, to do the visualizations, is that something that came to you spontaneously, naturally, intuitively, or it actually was a gift from somebody you watched somebody?
Oh, I just decided that I needed something beyond what I was doing. And I've always been oriented towards spirituality, but also remember I'm a registered nurse, and I know how to speak to people and what you can do to make them really upset, or you can help them to heal. That's what nursing is about to me, interpersonal communication. So I knew that there wasn't anything else. There weren't a group meetings or any specialty or anything. But I heard about meditation from the Maharishi Yogi. I heard about it, and I said, "Oh, maybe that will help me." And then the self-hypnosis came when I couldn't sleep at night, and I looked up in the yellow pages. I said, I'm going to go just use hypnosis. That's what I'm going to do. And I don't know where it came from, but I ended up studying it, years later. But I looked up the yellow pages and I just went there. I just drove in my car, and there's no GPS or anything, and it was miles away. And I learned what to do. And I used it every day, those 2 things, to get in the zone. I didn't know that's what I was doing. And that helped me so much. And I always go back to that to say, I need to be in that space where I'm creative and where I see things in a positive way. So while I was meditating, I would see myself holding a baby in my arms, my own baby, despite what the doctor had told me.
See, I really wish for more people to kind of listen to this and have at least try it. I think that's what it is. I have another guest, Nate Terrell. He always says that, try it on, try it on. He's a coach. So he keeps saying that phrase. Why don't you try it on and see how it feels? And it takes curiosity.
It's your own creation. It's your own creation. We all have imagination. And you move, as I said, you move in the direction of your dominant thoughts and pictures. So why not facilitate the process for yourself? Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
It feels very empowering. So I would love to talk a little bit. So that's I wanted to mention this because I love the way you phrase it. You call it how to transform fear into constructive energy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know you use a different term too that we talked before, but I don't know why this really kind of resonates with me in the way you put it. Transform fear into constructive energy. Yes, that's exactly what it's needed to succeed in life in any way. That's
Mm-hmm.
how I see it too. So talk to me about the book. I think you mentioned the book, The Upside of Stress.
Yes.
Um, So I would love to hear a little bit more about that. How did you come across that book, and what is the core message that relates to the topic?
Well, we have many people believe that stress is a bad thing. Now, there's such a thing as a stressor, and we have many stressors, right? We have, what's happening at your job. We have, you have to transportation to get to your job and take the subway, whatever it is, environmental stressors. We have many of those, these days with global warming. And so those are the stressors, but how we respond to them are the stresses that we have, and we carry those with us. And if you can imagine yourself, you're on the corner, in New York City, on the corner of 76th Street and Third Avenue, and you see a horrible car accident. Some people will respond to it, try to be helpful. Other people will just be so panicked they won't know what to do, right? So you can think of it in an emergency situation, but that's your response that you can handle. If you are anxious, you're wasting all your energy. In any wrestler that I work with knows that. I had two left feet. I don't know what happened to me. I was so anxious. I couldn't even do a takedown, you know. And I say, oh, well, you're just wasting your energy thinking that your opponent is better, thinking that your opponent is the intimidator, and the scare he's your opponent's the scarecrow and you're the one being scared. So I say, here, you can transform that same energy that you're using, because you only have 6 minutes to score, and you can transform that psychodynamically into scoring energy. So I show them how, and I use a simple recycle funnel that I got at the recycle center, and to blow into that, and rather than, and all your breath into that towards your opponent. And there's some data on that your opponent feels the energy. So then you can use that to score, rather than just be there with feeling like you have two left feet when you know exactly what to do in other circumstances. And so I call that psychodynamic transfer of energy.
Right. I love that. It is just so clear to me. That's exactly how it works. And I wish for more people to try that. It's really, that's my intention, really, for people to really try. And regardless of age, too, right, Christine?
Mhm.
Because some people feel like they are too old to heal or to try anything new.
Exactly. Well, that's a big issue. And I work with that all the time, right? I work with older citizens, and they tell me, but I have this diagnosis and I have that diagnosis, and how could you tell me to do this, and how could you tell me to breathe, and you know and they're looking at their diagnosis, the label that we were talking about before. You have a label, and therefore, don't you know I have this, and don't you know I have that? Yes, but you can start seeing the healthy picture of yourself, and that holds you back from healing. That literally holds you back, because no matter what I'll say, they have a counter to it, and it's negative, right? So and that's really blocking your success, because there have been studies where, and this is really a funny one I read about years ago. This man was in the hospital, and he had all these doctors around him on rounds, and the head doctor was talking about his heart condition, the patient's heart condition. So he said, look at this, he has this, he has this, and he has this galloping heart, right? He has a galloping heart. So anyway, the man was discharged. There was no hope for him, to live. They didn't think he would live. And some months later, he goes back to the doctor for a visit, and he looks healthy. And the doctor's examining, like my eye doctor, right, and shocked how his heart is doing. And the doctor said, what did you do? I'm like, you're doing so much better. And he didn't say, I was giving up on you. And the man said, oh, I imagined that I was a racehorse galloping, you know. And so he got better just by that. He thought the doctor was talking about what a great heart he had, and he could be like a racehorse. So isn't that amazing? It is what we tell ourselves. It is what we imagine, and we can cancel out and have another picture. That doesn't mean that you're always going to be 100% healthy again, but I'm convinced as they get older that health isn't just perfect blood pressure and perfect, blood test, and it's not just about how you look. That health is in your mind, and they prove that with older people who feel like they're healthy and it's the best time in their lives, and they are healthy. So it has to do with what we think, what we know, and to know that you can have exercise, you can do some kind of exercise, and you can eat the right foods, and that you don't have to overeat or be overweight, and that's a big part of some people's condition. And also that there's something to do in life, to be yourself, to reach your goals, and to have some goals set for yourself, so that you're not just giving up. And I know that that makes a huge difference. At least it has in my life, up to this point. And also with the clients that I work with. And also I knew this as a young student nurse, how to help people to achieve their goals of wellness. And we're all going to pass away someday. That is true. But you can even make that better using the power of your mind to help you to heal through the trauma and to see the value of your life. I call it a life review, before you pass on. So there's always something you can do for yourself and improve. And it starts with your mindset.
Gosh, yes. What can I say? You're such a beautiful example of that. I mean, a role model of that. You really, really are. And I don't want uh, to kind of attribute that to your intelligence, because I know you're a very intelligent woman. But I think it's wisdom too. It's kind of coupled with wisdom, with this understanding that there's a lot more into being a human. It's not just the body, like you said. Health is not just about being physically healthy, but it's about the mind, how you perceive life. So that has to do a lot with what I call timeless wisdom, which is it's connected to spirituality
Mm-hmm.
too. But you are, in general, without even trying to pin down, you're just a perfect role model of that kind of power.
Mm-hmm.
It's really very clear to me. You have a huge influence in my life, and you don't even know, because that's not really something that I think I had probably talked about it and write to you about it. But it's incredibly inspiring as a woman, as a person, as a being. It's really beautiful to see you exploring, what is to be this, to have this body, mind, and what can we, it's almost like very playful in a way. How can I play with it?
Well, it can be fun. It's better than sitting around, you know, being an old grouch and thinking nothing's going to improve. I'm hands on. I've always been hands on. Just grab it and take it and do what you can, rather than just sitting around.
Yeah. And you see, from that perspective, you come across also very young, very childlike. That's how I see it too. It's very innocent, like
It's
innocence and
playful.
wisdom.
Yes, because I spent a lot of time in that space, the zone, and the subconscious mind is playful. It's irrational, you know. And so when you're there, you can really have fun. Of course, you have to um, use the left side of your brain, which is the conscious mind, connected to the conscious mind, to help you with the positive suggestions. And but when you're in the zone, you're using mostly the right side of your brain, in your imagination. And so, yeah, it's playful and it's fun, and that's how you can be so lighthearted, to just release that takedown or swing the bat and get a home run, right? And have some fun in life.
So we're almost at the end. I want to mention, oh yeah, I think we talked off record about FDR. There's 1933 was the inaugural speech
Yes.
that he gave. I would love for you to read that, Christine. That's a powerful message too.
Yes. Well, in 1933, Franklin Delano Roosevelt said, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself, nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror, which paralyzes needed efforts to convert retreat into advance." So that's what he was talking about. Take when we retreat rather than going backwards rather than advancing. That's what we were talking about before with this psychodynamism, where you convert anxiety into scoring. And so he said that during the Depression, when people needed that confidence, and we don't have that today. We have government taking away jobs rather than giving you jobs, and taking away food rather than giving you food. So that's where all the fear is coming in today. And we all need to work together and reach out to each other in need, and not make it so you're fearful that you can't feed your children. You can't afford a carton of eggs, and you get very fearful that your children won't have enough food. And so I like the idea of what FDR said. And he also talked about later on in 1941, he talked about the freedoms, the four freedoms. One was freedom from want. That's really significant in Norman Rockwell's his print of the grandmother serving the turkey dinner. That's very famous. But also there was freedom from fear, and freedom of worship, and freedom to what was the fourth one? Oh, freedom to have your own point of view, freedom of speech. So these four freedoms, they are very important to us today as well. And that gave the people confidence in 1941. So we had the war ahead of us. And so that's inspirational and spiritual, from our leaders, in my opinion. And so we can overcome these fears, like I mentioned in my synopsis about Cynthia, this 14-year-old girl she was a cheerleader, and she was having challenges on this new team, this new club that she joined. And the coach was screaming at her and making fun of her when she was practicing. And she got very upset, and she had physical symptoms that are controlled by the autonomic nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system. And she started to vomit profusely during practice and even during the competition. Now, the it wasn't the best situation, because she was being held up by all the other people in a pyramid shape at the top of the pyramid. And when she vomited, she would vomit on all the people below her. And that was during competition. And so the people below her would get their costumes filled with vomitus, and they had to continue with their routine because it was a timed event and they had to go with the beat of the music. And then they wouldn't get the highest score. It would be disruptive, right, with the rhythm. And so she didn't know what to do when she came to me. But I taught her these mindful toughness skill sets. And within a short period of time, she stopped the vomiting and she was able to do her best routine. And I showed her how she could speak up to the coach and tell her off, right? And then she went to another club and was happy to go to another club and feeling fine. So it's using the power of your mind. It's very simple, but the autonomic nervous system is control of these things in the body. They're subconscious, because we don't want to be thinking of breathing every second or every minute. We don't want to have it be conscious that our hearts are beating or not beating. And the subconscious mind also controls things like body temperature and digestion. And so that's related to IBS and things like that. So it's not a figment of my imagination in that sense, and it's not voodoo. It's really working with the power of the mind connected to the subconscious mind, which controls a huge percentage of our body function every second and every minute of our lives. So consider that, and how this young cheerleader was successful with just like 3 short sessions. She was able to do all that, and her teammates were happy too, because of the situation with the vomiting, right? So I felt sorry for her, but she cleared it up with a short period of time, which was a credit to her.
Right. Ah, well, it goes both ways. Yeah.
Yes.
I know you're being humble, which is beautiful too. Yes. I mean, you have so many examples of how this technique works, how successful we can be if we
Mhm.
apply it. So
Yes.
I wanted to please talk to me about your services, Christine. I know you have the book, of course, and then what other services at this time you are available to be you open to. Actually, I didn't go to your website to see if you updated anything. So
Right. Well, the book is called Wrestling Through Adversity, and we've been talking about that today, empowering children, teens, and young adults to win in life. But it does relate to adults. As I said, I went to the eye doctor as an adult. And also, I wanted to point out that I wrote a blog on this idea of the miscarriages. And it's recent. It was in January 2025. It's called Beyond the Pain of Miscarriage, Finding Strength and New Beginnings. And that's on idealperformance.net, where my services are offered. And also, you can find their metamorphosis, fertility enhancement coaching on idealperformance.net. And also, there's a figure, it's called the HPA axis that we're talking about here, and how tension affects your brain, the hypothalamus, then the pituitary that's in your brain, and then there's a connection with the adrenals that produce the cortisol, and also this high stress fight or flight response. So if you want to see the description, it's in my book. It's on page 187 with the diagram, but also the diagram of the HPA axis is in my website, drchristinesilverstein.com. So you can see a big figure there under the figure section. And that explains what happens when you have a stress in your life and how it's automatic and how it's very rapid. So that's why you need to have these mindful toughness skill sets so that you can work with it and use it wisely, the energy wisely. And that is very important, and it's very scientific, how it works. And the fight or flight response, we can, like the cheerleader had, she was vomiting, you can overcome that and you can help yourself to heal. So I would say that people can look at my website and see my other services as well. Idealperformance.net, drchristinesilverstein.com, and my blog that I publish every week. It's also on my website, idealperformance.net. And lately I've been also thinking about how to apply these programs that I have. I have Operation Heal, that I work with people to help them through surgeries, and also my experience as a medical surgical nurse for many years, and how to use the power of your mind to be healthy and happy after surgery and to get the results that you want, or through chronic or long-term disorders that you have, where you can improve your mindset to heal and to have a better life. So these programs I've had for years, and I've worked with many clients, as well as sports for kids and SATs and things like that to help teenagers. And I love working with teenagers. They're my favorite people to work with because they are the ones who accept using the power of the mind, and they ask me, why didn't anybody tell me about this before? Because they're so successful, they get on the honor roll and they win and they feel good about themselves. And it's very easy to use and very natural.
yes, it's very natural. I absolutely agree. Yeah, I love the way you say that you're like teenagers because they're open, aren't they?
They're open. They have a challenge and say, you mean it's as easy as that? I have to take a deep breath. I have to touch my headgear and I'm back in focus. So it's automatic and they get good results and they win, even to the point of winning championships, which is huge, huge for a teenager to become a champion of anything, but to just feel good about themselves and to say, oh, I got my first A in science, things like that, my worst subject. So it's amazing, what you can do for yourself. And as I say, these skill sets, once you learn them, they're free as the air you breathe, and they're yours forever because they're portable skills.
Ah, yes, you take them everywhere you go.
everywhere you go.
Right.
Hmm.
You mentioned, I love the name Operation Heal. That is on under what website, Christine?
Well, you'll find it on idealperformance.net. And I've had that program for many, many years, and it was built up, which is another trauma that I had when I had these four babies that I talked about. I had cesarean sections, and the anesthesia didn't work. So I had surgery without the anesthesia working. And and so it was based on that, and I developed it over the years. This is how you can get through surgery. You know what to expect and what to do, and go in the zone. But for my case, it's a very rare disorder where the spinal anesthesia or the epidural didn't work. And when you're having a cesarean section, you don't take general anesthesia because that affects the breathing of the child. So it suppresses the breathing. So I had no other choice. I tried different things. I helped to help myself, but I had very large babies, and these cesarean sections were necessary because I'm petite. My last baby was 10 pounds, 8 ounces. And so the cesarean section helped me, but also because the anesthesia didn't work properly, it was it was very, very painful. What can I say? Like burning hot coals in my abdomen. That's what it felt like. Trying to have the baby born. So these are from my experiences, but also from my very young experience as a nurse at the age of starting at 16. And I learned so much. I was a registered nurse by the time I was 19, and I was in charge of a 38-bed hospital unit by the time I was 22 years old. So that's a big responsibility. So I look back and I think, how the heck did I know what to do? But I just did. And that's all part of my mission.
I mean, if I could say something about that to summarize, if I could summarize
Mm-hmm.
your life and what you're doing, kind of combine them, is basically, it feels to me like it's transforming pain and suffering into meaning,
Mm-hmm.
which meaning has to do with exactly with that mission of helping others.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yes.
wow, you've been, I mean, you have done that really, really well. It's truly, truly amazing, fascinating to see how some people can do this and they'll be as amazing as you are, and some people are not, not even,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you just can't even compare. It's just incredible. And I wonder why some people,
Mm-hmm.
they're willing to explore, their own potential, and some people are just, they give up, it seems to me.
Well, I think for me it's a gift that I have, that I know what to do, and that it wasn't. It's like if you're gifted in playing the violin, but if you never have a violin, if you never hold a violin, you can't be the expert. It's like this. I had much education. Remember, I studied, as a student nurse. I got my RN at an early age, so I have many years of experience. But it's a way of, I call it a way of knowing, and knowing what to say. And I always sought out, well, what should I say to this patient? What should I do? And it was always my question, because I saw horrific things at a very young age. Like my job as a student nurse when I was 17 was to clean up the people after they died in their bed while their relatives would come in to see them before they went to the morgue. And that was horrifying for a 17-year-old to have to do that. But I remember one instance, I called my classmates in to help me, because the patient, when you're dead, you're what they call dead weight. So I needed to transfer the patient onto the stretcher to bring to the morgue. And my classmates were laughing and giggling. And I said, no, the spirit of the person's here. We have to be aware of that. I always knew that. And so that was very interesting to me to look back now and say, well, how did I know it at such a young age? But I did. And that was part of my spirituality, I guess, that I developed. So it's not as if you have a gift and you don't have to develop it. Anybody who's gifted will know that can that can be positive, but not necessarily, because people who don't have the gifts, they can do better at hitting the baseball if they know what to do. Using the power of the minds, they can even be better. So you have to develop it, is what I'm saying. You have the gifts, you have to recognize them, and then work towards developing them into what they are. Because I know much smarter than I was years ago, but I learned from everything, that I've done. And now I just know things that other people don't, and that pertains to healing, how you heal, and it's through my life experiences and also my healthcare education, and I learned it all the way through. And also, I have a master's in public administration, and also a doctorate from Teachers College. So that was educational as well. How to work with people, how to work with clients, and it's all very valuable to me, to learn and to grow.
I know you are working on the translation into Arabic for
Yes,
Wrestling Through Adversity. We talked off rec. We have been talking for a while about it too.
yes.
So is this the only new project you have in mind for now, Christine, or do you have some others that I am not aware of?
Well, my focus is on working with people. If they contact me, if they have a need, I'm very happy to work with people. I've been for the past 3 years. I started writing my book in 2022, March 1st, and I've been very much involved in that, promoting it, traveling, um, giving presentations, keynote addresses, things relating to that. And also, last year I started this Arabic translation, which is very challenging, as I described. It's a whole new experience learning about different culture and even the language that's very intricate and spiritual. Finding out things, how we're connected. I did feel that one of the most positive things is I connected with the interpreters who actually read my book word for word and translated it. And sometimes I felt like I was just in pulse, like we were breathing together, and our pulse was together as I was reading through the translation, because many of the stories and many of the things I talk about are metaphors and images, and they was just so good. They just understood it so perfectly. But the challenge was that that language doesn't have the same amount of vowels we have, and of course the lettering is not Latin lettering, and so it took a long time to understand the translations, and but I connected with the Arabic language, which I never had any experience with before, and it's beautiful. And I just hope to be able to complete that task and publish that book on Kindle. It's coming hopefully soon in Arabic, and so that's a big accomplishment for me. So that's where all my effort, most of my effort, has been. But also, I started this blog last end of last year, so that's something that I've been doing every week. And I also have a newsletter on Kindle if people would like to subscribe. And then another project I'm working on is my YouTube channel, The Young Navigator. And so people want to see something about my recordings, working with teenagers, Operation Heal. There are recordings on my YouTube channel, The Young Navigator. So you can find out more about me. And I invite people to subscribe and to join my community of like-minded people like the two of us that we met and we connect. And I know that there are many more followers of your platform that could connect with me as well, because we're all in that community, and we all have our ways of knowing that are aligned. And that's what's going to make a better world for us, for sure. And I could say the cheerleader would agree with that.
Yeah. Yes, I
She would
absolutely.
cheer us on, right?
Yes, yes. Gosh. So again, all the websites will be on the podcast notes, drchristinesilverstein.com and ideaperformance.net. And also the
Yes,
book will be linked to Amazon. So Wrestling Through Adversity, Empowering Children, Teens, and Young Adults to Win in Life.
yes.
Everything will be there. Thank you so much again for your beautiful presence, Christine,
Thank you for
and you
having me.
for your grace too. And we'll talk soon. We'll be in touch again
Thank you.
soon.